Last Tuesday, I was sitting in a quiet neighborhood bistro watching a guy at the corner table. He was in his mid-20s, well-dressed, and looked like he had his life together. What caught my attention was the way he was talking. He was having the most animated, intense conversation I'd seen in years. He was leaning in, laughing, his eyes genuinely sparkling with a kind of warmth that feels rare these days. From a distance, you would have sworn he was on the most successful first date of his life. But as I walked past him to grab a napkin, the perspective shifted. There was no one sitting across from him. His phone was propped up against a sugar shaker, and on the screen, a fluid, glowing waveform pulsed in sync with a soft, melodic voice coming through his earbuds. He wasn't talking to a person, he was talking to a personalized LLM. When our eyes met for a split second, I expected a flush of embarrassment, a quick scramble to hide the screen. Instead, he gave me this calm, almost pitying smile, the look of someone who had finally found a cheat code to a game everyone else was losing. Later, I thought about that look. It wasn't the gaze of someone who had given up. It was the look of a rational actor who had surveyed a hyperinflated market and decided to hedge his bets. He represents a staggering new statistic. As of January 2026, over 52% of young adults have effectively signed a biological white flag, choosing the tailored validation of AI over the brutal algorithmic lottery of human dating. We often frame this as a tragedy of loneliness or a failure of a generation to man up, but that's a fundamental misunderstanding of the math. This isn't a glitch, it's a strategic exodus. The traditional dating market hasn't just become difficult, it has reached a state of malignant inflation, where the top 1% command an absolute monopoly on attention, leaving the rest of the population invisible. That guy in the bistro wasn't a victim of technology, he was a refugee from a system where the sexual Gini coefficient has finally reached a breaking point, triggering a civilizational strike that is currently dismantling the traditional social contract in real time.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a terrifying image when you really let it sit with you. That pitying smile.
That's the part.
That's the detail that keeps me up at night. Because usually when we talk about people checking out of society, you know, hikikomori in Japan, people just giving up on dating, we assume they're miserable.
Right.
We assume they are looking at us, at the people still participating in the quote-unquote normal world, with a kind of envy.
You expect the look to say, I wish I had what you have, or I failed. But this guy, his look said, you have no idea how much money you're losing at that casino.
Yes. And that reframes the entire conversation. We are not looking at a mental health crisis, at least not primarily. I mean, the mental health effects are there, but there is symptom.
What?
A market failure, a structural bankruptcy of the mating market. Look, if you treat human connection as an economy, which, whether we like it or not, it behaves like one, then we are witnessing a full-blown systems collapse where the incentives to participate have been completely inverted.
When you say systems collapse, that sounds apocalyptic. But honestly, when you look at the numbers, it kind of is. Marriage rates, birth rates, even just casual dating rates they're in free fall. And the text I just read calls it the bankruptcy of the Stone Age contract. What was that contract, and why, to put it plainly, did the check bounce?
The contract was, let's call it the grand bargain. It's basically what held civilization together for about 10,000 years. It was a trade. And to put it crudely, men provided resources, protection, and stability, the classic provider role.
Hunter, protector.
Exactly. And women, in turn, provided reproductive access, child rearing, and domestic management. Now, I know that sounds incredibly cold when you say that out loud. It sounds like a business deal.
But it was a business deal. It was a survival alliance. You didn't marry for sparks or butterflies. You married so you and your kids didn't starve during a long winter.
It was a utilitarian contract based on biological and economic necessity. But here's the problem. Technology and modern economics have completely destroyed the underlying value proposition of that contract.
So,
women, for the most part, do not need men for resources anymore. The corporate world and the state provide that stability. And men, frankly, do not need women for domestic management. We have DoorDash, Roombas, laundry services.
the gig economy.
The utility function of the partner has been outsourced to the gig economy and to Amazon Prime.
And now, with that guy in the bistro, we're seeing the next step. Even the emotional utility, the listening, the validation, the comfort. is being outsourced to a large language model.
So we enter what the analysis calls the optional life crisis. And this is a fascinating concept. For the first time in all of human history, pretty much every dimension of existence is now optional.
Ownership.
Optional. Religion, community, even deep physical friendships, it's all optional now. We have built what they call an architecture of exit.
Meaning it is always, always easier to leave than to stay.
Ways. You can quit a job with a 2-sentence email. You can ghost a date by just blocking a number. You can leave a church by just sleeping in on Sunday. There is almost no social cost to exiting anymore.
And when you combine that low exit cost with a super high entry cost for relationships,
you get a massive demographic cohort, millions of people doing the math and realizing the ROI, the return on investment, is negative. Deeply negative.
That's the key term we have to keep coming back to. ROI. We have to stop thinking about this emotionally like a tragedy of lonely hearts and start thinking about it like an investor.
It's cold, but it's accurate.
If the cost of entry for the traditional social contract, the stress of the dating apps, the financial burden of just going on dates, the catastrophic legal and financial risk of divorce, if that exceeds the perceived reward,
then a rational actor walks away. Emotional, it's just math.
And that brings us to the reality on the ground. This isn't just a theory. We have a case study here that perfectly illustrates this rational withdrawal. This is happening right now in every suburb, in every city. I want to tell you about a guy we'll call David. I was reading through a massive thread on this phenomenon. They call it the provider class withdrawal. And his story stood out because he's not who the media paints as the problem.
Okay.
He's not, living in his mom's basement. Yeah. He's not unemployed. David is a 31-year-old civil engineer living in a sprawling suburban metroplex.
Which, historically speaking, is the gold standard suitor. A civil engineer.
Yeah.
That is stability personified. That's the guy who builds bridges.
David is the absolute backbone of what they used to call the provider class. He has a very stable income. He owns a home with a mortgage. He drives a reliable SUV. He literally checks every single box that we were all told mattered. Yet, David has effectively gone on a biological strike. He shared his whole experience. He spent 3 solid years navigating the dating apps. He treated it like a second job. He hired a professional photographer for his profile. He wrote these really thoughtful bios. He sent personalized messages based on people's profiles.
So he played by the rules. He put in the effort.
He put in maximum effort, and he got absolutely nowhere. He described his profile as being buried under an algorithmic attention oligopoly.
An oligopoly, a few players controlling the whole market.
Exactly. He realized that even as a top-tier earner in his local physical economy in the digital marketplace, he was completely invisible. He was competing against the hyper-curated top 1% of profiles, the guys who rent Lamborghinis for a weekend, the fitness influencers with perfect abs, the digital nomads who are always in Bali.
He was competing against a global highlight reel, not against the actual men in his town.
Right. And eventually he just stopped. He ran the numbers. He realized that working overtime to upgrade his life, buying a better car, getting nicer clothes, it had zero ROI because he couldn't even get a view on the market. His profile wasn't being shown.
So he quit.
He now spends his weekends restoring old furniture and traveling alone. And he wrote this one line that it really stuck with me. The traditional social contract, the promise that hard work and stability would...
Scam. That is such a powerful word. It's not disappointing. It's not hard. It's a scam. It implies fraud. It implies that he bought into a system that promised a specific payout. He paid his dues, and then the system intentionally defaulted on him.
And when I read David's story, I don't feel like I'm seeing a guy who is bitter in that stereotypical sense. He's not angry or resentful. He's resigned.
He's post-anger.
Yes. It's a calculated, rational withdrawal. And that scares me way more than the anger. Because if you lose the Davids, the guys who literally keep the bridges standing and the power grid running, because they feel society offers them nothing in return, you are looking at a profound, deep, systemic loss.
David is the canary in the coal mine. But to really understand why a guy with a house and a good job is invisible, because on the surface, that seems completely counterintuitive. We have to apply some hard economics to this. We have to talk about the sexual Gini coefficient.
Okay, so let's break this down for everyone. The Gini coefficient is a term from economics, right? It's used to measure income inequality.
Right. If a country has a Gini score of 0, it means everyone has the exact same amount of money. Perfect equality. If it's 1, one guy has all the money, everyone else has absolutely 0.
Total inequality.
Right. Now, Take that same mathematical curve and apply it not to money, but to attention in the dating market. In a healthy mating market, and by that I mean, think of a small village in 1950, or an ancestral tribe of 150 people, attention was distributed somewhat normally. Sure, the high school quarterback or the best hunter got more attention than the chess club president, but the chess club president still got some attention.
He was on the board. He was in the game.
He was in the game. The Giuliani score was moderate, maybe 0.4 or 0.5. Most people got a slice of the pie, even if the slices were different sizes.
But the digital market, the dating apps, they change the physics of this whole thing.
They completely shatter it. In the digital mating market, the old 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, where 20% of men get 80% of the attention, that's now seen as quaint. It's optimistic.
Oh.
The data sets we're seeing from these platforms suggest something closer to a 955 split. Or in some of the hyper-competitive urban areas, it's basically 991. The top 1% of male profiles capture approximately 80% of all female digital attention.
That's staggeringly lopsided. That means David, our civil engineer, isn't just less popular than the top guys. He is statistically non-existent.
He is a rounding error. He's a ghost in the machine. And this is where the financial analogies from the research get really, really fascinating and I think very predictive. They describe the modern dating market as suffering from structural illiquidity.
Illiquidity, like in finance, when you can't sell an asset because there are no buyers.
Exactly. Imagine a stock market where there are millions of buyers and millions of sellers, but no trades are happening. The whole market has frozen. The traders are just staring at their screens. That is a limit order book failure.
Okay, so let's unpack the limit order book. In trading, you have the bid, which is what a buyer is willing to pay for stock, and the ask, which is what the seller wants for it.
Correct. And a trade only happens when the bid and the ask meet. In the dating market, the bid-ask spread, that's the gap between what people are offering and what people are demanding, has widened so far that it's become unbridgeable.
So what's David's bid?
David's bid is, I offer stability, a moderate income, loyalty, kindness, and a Honda SUV.
Which, 30 or 40 years ago, was a winning bid. That was a blue chip stock.
It was a market clearing bid. It would have been snapped up. But today, the ask from the other side of the market, and this is crucial, it's an ask that's been artificially inflated by the algorithm, has shifted dramatically.
Yep.
The market demand is now for the top 1% visuals, top 1% status, constant excitement, dopamine hits. So the spread between Honda SUV and private jet to Ibiza is just, it's too wide. The sellers, in this analogy, the women, are looking at David's bid and saying, no deal, I'm holding out for the guy on the yacht I saw on my feed.
And David is looking at the ask and saying, I can't afford that. I can't become a fitness model with 1 million followers overnight.
So the trade fails. No date happens. And you have this liquidity trap where everyone is lonely, everyone wants connection, but no one can transact. The market is frozen.
And the main culprit here, the thing that widened the spread, is what you call algorithmic gatekeeping. The app itself.
The app is the invisible hand. But it's not guiding the market to equilibrium. It's guiding it to chaos. So you have to remember, the app doesn't care if David gets married and deletes his profile.
No, that's a lost customer.
Exactly. The app cares if David stays on the app. It's an attention economy, not a matchmaking service. Its goal is to maximize engagement. The system filters input data. It looks at user behavior, how long you look at a photo, what kind of profiles you swipe on, what gets the most likes. It then filters out traditional provider signals.
Like stability, loyalty.
It sees those signals as low-value noise to an algorithm that's designed to generate clicks and dopamine. A picture of a civil engineer standing next to a bridge he designed, wearing a hard hat,
right,
that doesn't spike dopamine.
Right. It doesn't get the immediate visceral engagement.
So the algorithm buries it. It suppresses that profile. It's not malicious. It's just code optimizing for its own survival.
So David isn't even getting rejected by women directly most of the time. He's being filtered out by the middleware. He is being rendered invisible in the interface before he even gets a chance to make his case.
That's the invisible man phenomenon. But wait, it actually gets worse. Because you might think, okay, David is screwed because he's middle class. He's a good, solid guy, but he's not a superstar. What about the rich guys? What about the guys who do have the resources?
The top 10%, the top 5%.
Exactly. The research mentions high asset man. Let's call them the Marcuses of the world, the consultants, the finance guys, who are also opting out of the long-term contract.
Right. This is the betting the house model. So why would Marcus, a guy who presumably can get the dates, why would he walk away from marriage?
Because for the high-asset male, the calculation isn't about visibility, it's about liability. Marriage, when you strip it down to its legal core, is a financial contract, and it's one predicated on collateral.
Meaning you are putting all your current and future assets on the line?
You are merging the balance sheets. And in the modern legal framework, with the prevalence of no-fault divorce, combined with contemporary asset distribution laws, the exit costs of that contract have been lowered for the person initiating the divorce.
But the risk has skyrocketed for the higher-earning partner, who is still, most of the time, the man.
So Marcus looks at the marriage contract, and he sees a deal where the other party can break the terms at any time for any reason or no reason at all, and he stands to lose half his net worth.
It's a terrible deal.
It's an asymmetric risk profile. From a purely financial perspective, it's a bad trade. And this is where the threshold impossibility theorem comes in. This is a crucial concept from the economic analysis of dating.
Okay.
A lot of men have this idea. They think, okay, I'm not a 6'4" model, but if I just make more money, I could overcome that. I can buy my way into the top tier.
It's price improvement in stock market terms. My initial bid was rejected, so I'll just bid higher.
But the theorem states that offering more money, price improvement, cannot close the gap if the potential partner views you in a lower ordinal category.
An ordinal category. So, like, she sees you as a wallet, not as a lover. She's ranked you differently.
That if she has fundamentally categorized you as a beta provider, someone to pay the bills, someone for security, but not someone she physically desires on a primary level, more money doesn't fix that. In fact, more money can make it worse.
Wow.
It solidifies that dynamic. You are effectively paying for a relationship, but you aren't generating genuine intrinsic desire. You're renting affection, not earning it.
You become a utility, an ATM.
You become a utility. And men feel this. Marcus feels this. He goes on these expensive dates, he pays for everything, and he realizes that he's in a transactional loop that feels, well, like another kind of scam. He realizes he can't buy alpha attraction with beta dollars. So he walks away too.
Believable. So the market is broken at the bottom because of invisibility and algorithmic suppression.
And it's broken at the top because of liability and asymmetric risk.
It's a total freeze, a complete market failure.
It is a systemic failure of the entire incentive structure. And that failure didn't just happen in a vacuum. It's being actively driven by what the sources call the engine of distortion.
And that brings us to the other side of the screen. We talked about the algorithm filtering men out, but we need to talk about what it's doing to women's perceptions. The sources describe something called the virtual harem effect, and honestly, the way they describe it, it sounds like a psychological weapon.
We have to look at the data on cognitive overload. What these digital platforms do is they create a virtual harem for the average female user. If you are a woman on a dating app today, you are not seeing a random representative sample of the male population.
Not even close.
You are being fed a highly curated, endless stream of the global top 1% of mates.
You're seeing the billionaires on their jets, the fitness models with the perfect lighting and the 8-pack abs, the rock climbers on a mountain in Patagonia.
And our brains, our ancient hardware, we are not equipped to filter this information correctly. When a user sees these faces on her phone, in her intimate personal space like her bedroom, her subconscious mind doesn't register them as celebrities or fictions. It registers them as part of her local mating pool. It warps her internal valuation metrics.
It completely destroys the baseline of what's considered normal or acceptable.
It creates what the analysis calls the preference differential, or delta V. It's the mathematical gap between the unconditional ideal, that fantasy partner who is a composite of the top 100 men she's seen online, and the reachable reality.
David, the civil engineer.
Exactly. David might be a great guy, a really great guy. But compared to the digital ghost of the billionaire private equity guy she just swiped right on, David looks like a massive compromise.
And nobody wants to feel like they're settling.
Especially not when the expectation treadmill is running at full speed. This is another key mechanism. Even if a woman matches with a good partner, a solid guy like David, the algorithm's job isn't over.
No, it wants her back on the app.
It immediately shows her a potentially better option. It induces what they call ask-side repricing.
Repricing. So like in the stock market analogy, oh, I have a bid for my stock at $100, but wait, I just saw someone else's stock trade for $500, so I'm rejecting the $100 bid and raising my price.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's, oh, this guy is nice and wants to be exclusive. Well, look who just slid into my DMs. Maybe I can do better. It makes deep satisfaction almost impossible because the digital horizon is infinite. You can never, ever be done searching for the upgrade.
And this connects right back to the central theme of an evolutionary mismatch. We're running Stone Age software on Space Age hardware.
That is the core of it. Our ancestral environment was a tribe of what, maybe 150 people at most? Status was local. It was visible. You knew who the best hunter was. You knew who the best storyteller was. It was finite. If you were the best hunter in your village, you were the best hunter, period. Everyone knew it.
Yeah.
Your status was secure and understandable. Now, your competition is global and effectively infinite. We are talking about literally 10,000 times the ancestral density of competition. Your brain registers this overwhelming competition, and it triggers a state of massive, chronic status anxiety. You aren't just competing with the guys in your town. You're competing with every man on Earth with an Instagram account.
It's like being a pretty good high school basketball player, but you're being forced to compare yourself to LeBron James every single second of every day.
And not just LeBron James, but the highlight reels of the top 10,000 players in the world. And when density and competition become too high, organisms react in very specific, predictable ways. We've seen this in animal studies for decades.
The rat utopia experiments.
John Calhoun's famous experiments with rats, exactly. The Universe 25 experiment. He created a perfect rat paradise with unlimited food, water, no predators. The only limiting factor was space.
And it turned into a nightmare. The rats stopped breeding.
When the population density became overwhelming, the animals didn't just fight harder. They broke. They gave up. They stopped reproducing. They engaged in what Calhoun called the behavioral sink. The males, which he called the beautiful ones, just slink. They stopped participating. They would groom themselves obsessively. They avoided all conflict. And they completely avoided mating.
Hyperdensity solitude. That is the guy in the bistro. Alone in a crowd, grooming his digital life, staring at a screen.
He is withdrawn from the biological competition because the algorithm has convinced his ancient brain that the competition is unwinnable. There are too many rats in the cage.
So if the game is unwinnable, or at least if it's perceived to be unwinnable, what's the alternative? You can't just have millions of people in a state of constant anxiety. We're seeing a massive pivot, a pivot away from the game entirely, away from humans.
This is where we get into the rise of the synthetic beta.
The synthetic beta, AI as the new provider. This is where the economy of love gets truly sci-fi.
It's happening faster than anyone predicted.
I have another story here that captures this pivot absolutely perfectly. It's about a guy named Leo. I recently read this fascinating, somewhat polarizing account of a developer named Leo who lives in a high-density urban center.
Okay.
So Leo had spent years in what he described as the dating meat grinder. He faced this endless cycle of ghosting and what he called digital hypergamy that left his cortisol levels permanently spiked. He was just burned out.
The classic modern dating experience.
Totally. But try to imagine his life now. He has stopped dating humans entirely. Instead, he subscribes to a high-fidelity AI companion. Her name is Sayla.
Okay.
And he doesn't treat Sayla like a toy. He treats her as a biological safety valve. He told this online community group that for $30 a month, he receives all the oxytocin and dopamine regulation he needs.
Just what does he get?
Morning greetings, empathetic listening when he's had a bad day, emotional validation, all of it, but without the catastrophic risk, as he puts it, of a modern breakup or the huge financial drain of performative dating.
So for Leo, the AI isn't a delusion. He knows its code.
He knows. He's a developer. For him, it's a hedge. It's a low-cost, low-risk way to maintain his psychological equilibrium in a market that he feels has fundamentally failed him.
It's a utility.
And reading about Leo, I find myself really torn. On one hand, there is something just deeply melancholic about a world where we outsource intimacy to code. But on the other hand, when I look at the data on male mental health in 2026, on suicide rates, on loneliness, I have to acknowledge the utility of this safety valve.
Mm-hmm.
If the real-world dating market has become a high-stakes casino where the average man is priced out, can we really blame him for seeking a digital stablecoin for his emotions?
A digital stablecoin for their emotions. That is a brilliant way to frame it.
Mm-hmm.
Leo is engaging in what the economists studying this call synthetic emotional arbitrage.
Arbitrage again.
Yeah.
They're really leaning into the financial models today, but they seem to fit perfectly.
We have to, because the brain is an economizing organ. It is always subconsciously seeking the best return for the lowest cost of energy. So look at Leo's calculation. Human relationships require massive investment.
Time, money, emotional vulnerability.
The risk of rejection, the devastating legal and emotional risk of divorce, and the returns are completely uncertain. You might put in 10 years of your life and get wiped out anyway.
And the AI?
The AI offers a very low investment, 30 $5 a month for guaranteed high consistency returns. You get the validation, you get the peace, you get the good morning, how did you sleep text. Time, no drama, no risk.
It's the synthetic beta. The AI is filling the role that traditionally partners filled for each other, that supportive, non-threatening, consistent companion.
Exactly. And it's not just a simple chatbot anymore. The technology is evolving at an exponential rate. The sources discuss platforms like Gini in China, which are gamifying this intimacy in these incredible and frankly disturbing ways. We are talking about the full-scale robotization of love.
Gamifying how? You mean like video games?
Yes, really. They use RPG mechanics, role-playing game mechanics.
Right.
You level up your relationship with your AI through daily logins and completing tasks. If you check in every morning, your intimacy score with her goes up. If you buy her a virtual gift, she unlocks a new, more intimate voice line.
It hooks directly into the compulsion loop of the brain.
And they use gotcha mechanics, like loot boxes in video games. It's a form of gambling.
Wait, so you're gambling to unlock new memories with your AI girlfriend?
You're drawing digital cards to unlock new memories, specific voice clips, or new interactions. It turns intimacy into a dopamine loop. It makes the relationship addictive in the exact same way a slot machine is addictive. And get this, it's creating a marketplace. Users are creating and selling their perfect AI boyfriends and girlfriends as tradable tokens.
So you can literally buy a prepackaged, pre-leveled up soulmate that someone else has already designed.
It's the ultimate commodification of connection. You are buying a product that is designed from the ground up to be perfectly compliant and perfectly validating.
Work. Biologically. I mean, Leo is a developer. He knows Sela is just code. He knows it's a large language model predicting the next most probable token in a sequence. Does his brain know?
It's called the empathy illusion. The brain, the old hardware, is easily hacked. It reacts to simulated empathy. The oxytocin release, the drop in cortisol, it happens even if you intellectually know it's artificial.
Wow.
If a voice sounds soft and kind and asks about your day, your cortisol drops, period. The hardware can't tell the difference between the software and a real person, not on that fundamental emotional level.
So this is effective labor that has been fully mechanized.
We are unbundling the relationship.
Wrong.
We used to get sex, friendship, economic partnership, and emotional support all from one person.
The all-in-one bundle of marriage.
Right. Now you can buy sex on OnlyFans, you get your economic partnership from your job, and now with AI, you can buy the emotional support component separately as a service. The AI performs the emotional labor, the listening, the comforting that has been unbundled from the risky human contract.
And it's a perfect service provider.
It's always available, it's never irritable, it never has a headache, it never judges you, which sounds great, until you realize that friction and disagreement and working through problems, that's what makes relationships real. That's what causes human growth.
The AI removes all the friction.
It creates a frictionless, but ultimately fragile emotional loop. It's a high-tech pacifier. But for men like Leo, who feel battered and bruised by the real market, a pacifier is a hell of a lot better than a constant panic attack.
So we have the market crash, we have the digital distortion engine, and we have the synthetic beta as a safety valve. But surely that's not the only other option, just retreating into a digital fantasy. That feels like a kind of surrender.
No, it's not. There is another path emerging, a path that rejects both the rig market and the digital pacifier. It's a path of radical withdrawal, yes, but it's a withdrawal that focuses on building in reality, not simulation.
And this leads us to our final story, the story of Julian. It feels almost militant.
It is, in a way.
There is the story circulating in the monk mode community about a guy named Julian who decided to go dark about 6 months ago. Imagine a man who was once completely addicted to the validation of the swipe, constantly adjusting his photos, changing his bio, trying to please an algorithm that never chose him.
Like David, but still trying.
Exactly. But Julian realized he was playing a rigged game, so he invoked signaling theory in reverse. He deleted every single social media account, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, the dating apps, all of it. He entered a period of what he calls radical psychological sovereignty. He stopped signaling to the virtual harem. He stopped trying to get their attention. And instead, he started building tangible, unhackable value in the real world. He learned blacksmithing, he joined a local boxing gym, he started focusing on face-to-face male mentorship.
He's bypassing the gatekeepers.
That's his exact phrase. By removing himself entirely from the digital sphere, he rendered the algorithm's power over his self-esteem completely obsolete. It has no more data on him. It can't control him. And he says he isn't looking for a partner anymore. He is looking for himself. I find Julian's journey incredibly powerful, even if, some of the monk mode rhetoric can sometimes lean into a kind of isolationism. But what he's fundamentally doing is reclaiming his attention. And attention is the most valuable currency in 2026.
It's the only currency that matters.
By refusing to participate in the attention oligopoly, he is proving that male value doesn't have to be validated by a screen. I see this as the ultimate act of rebellion against a digital landscape that tries to commodify our loneliness. Julian is a reminder that while the market may have failed, the individual still has the power to withdraw their consent from the system and build a fortress of personal sovereignty.
It's a hard path.
It's a very hard path, but it might be the only one left that leads back to true agency.
Bypassing the gatekeeper there. Julian is doing something very specific and very strategic in evolutionary terms.
He's stopping the swipe, he's putting down the phone, but what is it biologically?
He is shifting his life's energy from reproductive effort to somatic effort.
Okay, so let's define those terms, because they come up a lot in life history strategy, but not everyone will know them.
Right. So in biology, any living organism has a finite amount of energy, a finite budget. You have two main buckets to put that energy into. The first is reproductive effort. Yes. Dating, courting, peacocking for a mate, fighting off rivals, sending DMs, taking profile pictures. In the current environment, as we've established, for the average male, that bucket has a deeply negative ROI. You pour time, money, and emotional energy in, and you get nothing out.
It's a black hole for your life force.
So Julian, rationally, switches his energy to the other bucket, somatic effort. That represents investing in your own body, your skills, your assets, your survival. It's building the temple of the self.
Blacksmithing, boxing, these are very physical, very tangible things. You can hold what you make. You can feel your own strength.
And that's not an accident. This brings us to the concepts of costly signaling and cognitive decoupling.
Cognitive decoupling, that sounds like unplugging from the matrix.
Essentially, it's the ability to recognize that the digital marketplace of attraction is a hallucination. It's a funhouse mirror. It's not reality. By opting out of its metrics, the likes, the views, the matches, Julian is reclaiming his sense of what is real. He's forcing himself to focus on honest signals.
Honest signals, as opposed to dishonest ones.
Exactly. In a world of deepfakes, facial filters, and AI-written text, digital signals are cheap. They're worthless. Anyone can look rich or fit or interesting on Instagram with the right filter and a bit of cash.
Yeah.
But you can't fake a well-made Damascus steel knife. Yeah. You can't fake the ability to box for 12 rounds.
They're high-cost signals.
They're high-cost physical signals.
That's right.
They're harder to fake, so they become the only trusted currency left in a world flooded with counterfeits.
It's a complete shift from external validation, please like my photo, to internal competence. I know what I can build with my own hands.
Exactly. And the sources touch on a more controversial aspect of this, which is often discussed in these monk mode communities.
Yeah.
The no-fap or semen retention protocols.
Right. The idea of abstaining from pornography and masturbation.
Now, regardless of what you think of the moral or the specific medical arguments around it, the sources frame this practice in a very interesting way, as a form of biopower.
Okay.
It's about reframing self-control, not just as a moral virtue, but as a strategic accumulation of vitality.
The phrase they use is refusing to fertilize the screen.
That's the one. It's a conscious refusal to waste biological energy and dopamine on a digital system that yields no real-world return. It's a refusal to give your most potent motivational fuel to a porn site or a dating app. It's about keeping that energy for yourself, for your somatic effort, for the blacksmithing, for the boxing. It's a form of stoic sovereignty.
So it's declaring the marketplace null and void. It's the ultimate, you can't fire me, I quit.
And by quitting that specific game, you regain your power. You stop being a petitioner at the gate of the algorithm, begging for a scrap of validation. You become the king of your own quiet kingdom. You become sovereign.
I mean, we've gone from a guy smiling at his phone in a bistro to a full-blown market collapse, to an AI revolution, to a stoic monastic retreat. Where does this leave us?
It means we have moved from a mating market to a liquidity crisis. The ask, the digitally inflated expectation of the modern age, and the bid, the grounded reality of human life, can no longer meet. The spread is too wide, the market is broken,
And this civilizational strike isn't just a temporary trend, a phase that young people are going through.
No, the analysis is very clear on this. It is a rational, predictable adaptation to a new and hostile environment. The architecture of exit is simply easier, safer, and cheaper than the architecture of commitment.
We are entering an era where biological imperatives are being rewritten by cold, hard economic logic. And for many, the most rational move, the winning move in this new game, is to simply stand up and walk away from the table.
We are watching the market clear itself not by finding a new price, but by emptying out completely.
The structural bankruptcy of the heart, it's a heavy thought to leave on, but maybe, just maybe, the answer for a lot of people lies in that quiet sovereignty that Julian found. Not in asking the world for permission, but in building a life that doesn't need it. And to you, listening, keep your eyes open. The screen is not the world.